Getting up close and intimate. Totally not taboo with Tracy. Celebrating sexual positivity both in and outside the bedroom.
Well, we are back, learner lovers. Welcome to Totally Not Taboo with Tracy. This is where we get to talk about everything taboo around sex and sexuality on your media, hashtag where you are. Today we have Lisa Welsh in the studio. Good day, Lisa. I'm
Hello,
so
Tracy.
I'm so excited to have you to chat to you today. You are really one of my favorite personalities on Instagram. So enigmatic.
Oh,
You love your character, I love your energy. I love your content. So let me just briefly introduce you to our listeners, and then we're going to get on to anal play.
yes.
So Lisa is a sexual empowerment and pleasure coach who helps people to overcome sexual shame and insecurities so that they can step into their true orgasmic nature. She started out as a life coach and gradually moved into the realm of sexuality after discovering the healing impact of reclaiming this part of her own identity. Lisa's life used to revolve around her to-do list. As a busy mum with massive body image issues and no time for herself, sex started to feel like another chore to complete. She learned to put on an act to make her partner feel good and get it over with as fast as possible. Eventually, Lisa was forced to admit that she was losing herself and decided to turn inward to remove the barriers she had erected over the years. She dedicated years to reading, learning, self study, and personal experimentation to restoke that fire in her belly, and now she guides women to do the same. She has created an exclusive discount code for all. I'm going to put this into her words rather. I have created an exclusive discount code for my signature online course, The Pleasure Chest. This will give your listeners 30% off the price. So at the end, please remind me, Lisa, to
Of
give
course.
your website
Mhm.
details and the code,
Absolutely. Yeah.
please, so that, all right, I'll give it now and then we'll remind our listeners as well. So it's www.itslisawelsh.com and the code is taboo in capital letters, TABOO. And then we will repeat it again at the end of the session.
Perfect.
Lisa,
Hello.
what I love, among, as I said, other things, is your awesome, awesome body, your body positivity.
Thank you.
I can talk from our own experience that over the years, I've also suffered from body issues. And as I've gotten older, I've also learned to embrace my body, having had 3 kids and having gone through all the body changes. It's been a tough road, but I'm still nowhere near you. So you are my hero, my inspiration. I admire you so much for embracing your body positivity.
Mm.
Would you like to get into that before we start?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for having me here. Like, I'm very honored to be invited on your show and for all of your kind words. You're making me feel like, oh, I'm blushing. So thank you for being so kind. And I admire you too. I love the work that you're doing. Okay, but to talk about the body positivity, you know something, Tracy? Part of it is doing the stuff before you feel ready, putting out the picture with your belly before you feel comfortable with that picture, and just seeing what happens. Like, sometimes I still see a photo and I think, yeah, it doesn't look like I would wish it would look in my dreams. But I just post it anyway, because when I see posts of other women doing the same, I can see their beauty. It's sometimes harder to see our own beauty. So by sharing that, and so far I haven't received any horrible trolls about my body, luckily. The more I embrace it, the easier it becomes, and I actually find it quite fun. As a human outside of social media, I love being naked and I love jumping around, as much as I can when I have two teenage sons and a stepson as well at home. So yeah, they put a big dampener on my wannabe nudity. But when and where I can, like, I really enjoy just being in my skin. I feel at home, and that has taken some time, that has taken some effort. But by testing out the edges of what I'm comfortable with, I feel like I've been able to grow in that area. And by finally giving up dieting I spent a lot of my life dieting. So I'm feeling freedom in food finally, freedom in my body. And it actually had nothing to do with the weight on the scale. That's something that I had to learn the hard way.
I hear you loud and clear. And it would be so amazing if we could just teach the younger generation to appreciate their young bodies while they're young. Because
Yes.
how often do we look back on photographs of ourselves and say, we thought at that moment that we were huge and
Mm-hmm.
so unattractive. But the truth is, we
Yeah.
weren't. We looked great. We were
Yeah.
normal kids just experiencing life, and we wasted so much of our youth and our childhood just being so obsessed with what we looked like. And
Mm,
what a shame. I feel so sad for my young self that was so
right.
obsessed with what I looked like when really I looked fine.
Oh my gosh. And you can look back and say, I was hot. Why did I not
Yeah.
feel hot? I didn't ever feel hot. And I missed out. And I actually feel even more sad for the girls now growing up with all of these filters and all of these eyes on them and so much comparison, and seeing all of their peers on social media with filters and everything. And like we didn't have that, right? I do feel that must be adding such a pressure. Like, I feel a pressure with the filters. I'm trying to not use filters as much. I do my stories without filters, and how easy it is just to swipe and just make a skin look so clear and beautiful, and wrinkles gone in an instant. But I'm actually preferring to not use those things, because this is me and I want to show up as myself, because out there, somebody who's watching doesn't have a filter on their face. And if you want to make a real connection, then you've got to take those things off. I mean, I say that. I love makeup. I love some fun filters. So there's a balance. But yeah, I'm trying to be as real as I can. And when you can show up as yourself on social media, with your belly, with your wrinkles, then in real life, it's not so scary to show up as yourself, because there's no disparity. People don't be like, oh, I didn't know you had a belly. But what people do say to me is, oh, I didn't know you were so short.
I love that. I remember reading about you saying that you 4 foot something, but you have a 6 foot personality or something. And that's so awesome. Love that.
Thank you.
You're talking about filters, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I didn't know those existed. I need to maybe use those.
I mean, on Instagram, that you can put over your photos to just look, more youthful and radiant.
Got to speak to my social media manager about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lisa, let's move on to our subject at hand.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to talk about anal play.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so taboo?
It is incredibly taboo. And I suppose for a number of reasons. It feels so naughty because it's like dirty, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's embarrassing to talk about the butt. And I'm British, so it's extra embarrassing to talk about the butt. Like, we do not talk about poo. And, poo happens from that area. And so to include that in sex can feel incredibly naughty and scary. Okay, so it's interesting because this has been something that people have been asking me about nonstop recently. Like, tell me about anal play. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And the things they're scared about are poo, encountering poo, and pain, and what it might say about them if they actually end up enjoying this. Because people have an identity of themselves sexually, and I'm sure that you've spoken about this before. You decide that, okay, this is the kind of sexual person I am because I'm also a mom and I'm also a wife, and I'm a good wife, and that means that I like sex this way. And they kind of build an identity and a set of rules for themselves. And so testing the edge of those rules that you've set for yourself can feel quite scary. So if you turn out to be somebody who loves anal sex, then what on earth does that say about you, right? And so it's like all of this pressure we pile on ourselves, like, does that mean I'm a insert your word here that you want to say, and so that's another big part of it. And so, yeah, those are the three main fears around it. And would you like me to go into them?
Sure, absolutely. We need to enlighten the general public about the myths about anal sex and the joys, the pleasures, and what
Yeah.
generally are the issues around it. So please.
Okay, so I guess one of the so let's talk about poo.
Yes.
The one thing to know is that the anus itself it's not a storage facility for poo. It is just the place where poo comes through on its way out. So that's one thing that I did not know initially. I just thought that, anywhere in there is going to be full of poo. So as long as you have been to the bathroom, that day, then you shouldn't be too worried about encountering poo during anal sex. I would suggest staying away from spicy foods or very fatty foods. That's probably good advice. And, having a shower, giving a little cleanup, but it's not essential to do too much in that realm, okay? During playing with the anus, it is possible that you do encounter poo. It is possible. And if you do, head to the shower and clean off. Like you just have to know that if you're in a comfortable relationship where you're able to explore the anus, then you have to be able to deal with poo if it happens. Like, it's not the end of the world. I say that, but I know that for me, the thought does terrify me still. Like, that is a real fear for me. Like, I like to have a lot of control around that anally retentive kind of personality over here. And so, yeah, that's the one thing. You just have to kind of get honest with yourself. This could happen. It's not the end of the world, but you can do certain things to reduce the likelihood of that happening. So that being said, I want to move into why would you? Like, why on earth would you do it? Especially if you're in a heterosexual couple, right? And there's a perfectly great place to put your penis already that feels fabulous for all involved. So you might be thinking, why on earth would I even want to consider going anywhere near the anus? So I'll tell you why. Because for some women, for some vulva owners, stimulation of the anus can provide orgasms that are even more powerful than clitoral orgasms. It can be a really intense feeling because there are tons of nerve endings there. It's incredibly sensitive and it can feel fabulous, right? Arousing and stimulating the anus can be incredibly orgasmic and bring a lot of pleasure for vulva owners. Not only that, it's also like a different kind of pleasure. Like, it is a raw and primal kind of pleasure. And it's also a kind of pleasure that requires a lot of surrender. You have to surrender and allow this pleasure to come. You can't just, with your clitoris, it doesn't matter if you're uptight, you can still kind of stimulate it to orgasm. But the anus, you've got to be surrendered. And so it puts you in a different state of mind. And so that can also bring a really nice element to the whole experience. Via the anus, you can also stimulate the prostate, and you can enjoy really great multiple orgasms by stimulating multiple parts of the pelvic region at once. So that's why it's worth doing if you're curious about it, which a lot of people are. That's why it's worth exploring. But then getting into pain, it's really important to take your time when you're exploring the anus. So, so important. This isn't something to be rushed. Because many people might not know that if you've seen porn that includes anal sex, that is not a good indicator of how it's going to work. Like often there is local anesthetic used, and a lot of pre-work has been done to relax the anus, and so potentially the area is numb and it is receiving the kind of treatment that a normal everyday anus is probably going to be quite unhappy about. So don't expect to be able to replicate what you've seen on porn in your own bedroom necessarily. It might not be possible to do that. So yes, it requires a lot of trust, and sometimes it can be great for the vulva owner or whoever is going to be receiving anal stimulation to actually start by stimulating it themselves, because it's easier to feel safe in your body on your own. I mean, either on your own or doing it yourself with your partner present, but it's easier to feel safe when you are in control that way. So this can literally be by stimulating the anus with your finger without any kind of penetration, always using lube, always. And I recommend a silicone lube for anal play, because the anus does not self-lubricate at all like the vagina does. So it requires always is going to require lube, and a long, like relaxed and present stimulation. So you can start by massaging the anus very lightly, bringing pleasure and pleasuring the clitoris perhaps at the same time, or the shaft of the penis, so that you're building the arousal and allowing the body to feel safe with what's happening, and then gradually moving towards penetration. And this can be done in one session, or it can be that today we're just going to massage the anus. Tomorrow we're going to maybe insert one finger a little. It could be like that, and it's got to be done in a way that keeps the body feeling safe. So it has to be done slowly and lovingly and gently, right? It can be really great to try anal toys before attempting a penis, and again, that's so that you can feel like it's okay. You're safe. You can feel safe with this inside you, or do you not, right? Do you feel safe with one finger inserted? Maybe not. You can start to decide for yourself, actually, no, I don't like this. I don't want to do it anymore. Or, one finger feels really good. Maybe we can try two, right? And it's just slow. And of course, hygiene is to be taken into account. So whether you use gloves or a condom, whatever you do, make sure that nothing goes from the anus to the vagina. That is a big no-no.
Yes.
So using a condom can be really helpful, because if, for example, you're putting a penis into the anus and then you want to put it in the vagina, then you can take the condom off in between. But you don't want any fecal matter anywhere near the vagina, because of that delicate microbiome in the vagina. She's going to be very cross about having any poo in there.
So in porn, okay, so we know that porn videos are really, they are studios, they are film studios, and there's a lot of stop and play and turn this way, turn that way, video cameras. But in a lot of porn, there are, the guy will be going in through the anus and then through the vagina, and then anus and vagina. What is that about? Do they stop recording and then wash off, and then how does that work?
I hope they do, but how would we know unless we were there? It looks like they don't. It looks like it's all just carrying on, and perhaps it's all been so cleaned and prepped beforehand that there's no chance of any transfer occurring. But yeah, porn, it's just really not a great thing to use as an educational tool. Like, it's not something to model. Great for entertainment. If that's your thing, then use it for entertainment, but just, don't think that because they do it on porn, it's okay to do it at home. Yeah, there'll be a very cross vagina in the household, and that's not fun.
Very scary. So I'm going to just say something inquisitive.
Okay.
So the anus does stretch. Okay, so it does have elasticity. I assume. So if you're able to insert, I assume, if it can take a penis, it can actually stretch. Okay.
Yeah, it can stretch. One thing too, that I was mentioning using toys before trying a penis. one thing to always keep in mind when using toys in the anus is that you have to have something with a flared base or like a string. You know, like you can buy anal beads that you can insert and remove, or something like a butt plug. I've got a very small one here. It has a base. It's flared. The reason being, when the sphincter closes, if you've got something like this, you're using something like this and the sphincter closes, you are not going to get that out very easily. When there's lube involved and a stressed out sphincter, that is staying put. And of course,
I also read once that the anus is like a vacuum. So unlike the vagina, you have the cervix to avoid any object getting sucked up there and disappearing into space, whereas the anus is like a vacuum. So if you insert a toy, it's very, very dangerous. Is that correct?
You need to use toys that are designed for this. Yeah, use toy. That is important. Yeah, because and once, if you feel like, oh, it's in, and you get more stressed, then things tighten even more. And yes, it's not a good idea. It's essential that you use toys designed for anal play, like a butt plug with something with a base, or a flared toy that, you know, it cannot just get sucked in. It's very important. Yes. And so you'll find like anal beads have a very long ending part, like a handle that you can use to remove and to stimulate. So that is a really, really essential tip. So yeah, you're right. It's not great to just put in like a slim, non-tapered dildo or vibrator inside.
And then the other question was around using dilators.
If this is something that, yeah, for stretching, it could definitely work. If that's what you wanted to do, if you were hoping to stretch the anus enough to take something bigger, like a penis, I suppose, if you were really struggling, then I guess a dilator could work in that same way. But what I would encourage more than anything is patience. Really, I would encourage patience and just allowing the anus to gradually, because you don't really want to permanently stretch. Like a dilator is kind of designed to permanently make space in the vagina. So something like, if you could gradually, more than anything, it's not about stretching the anus, it's about allowing your body to feel safe, relaxing in that moment. So that if you feel safe with a butt plug of this size, then perhaps next time you can try a slightly bigger butt plug. And it's not because your anus is suddenly more stretchy, it's because you are more comfortable. Because if you can feel pleasure with something like this inside, and you actually feel like, okay, actually, I liked that sensation, I'm ready to try something else. Like a lot of it is actually psychological. And it's about feeling safe. Like it is, I just keep coming back to that, but it is essential. Because with the vagina, you know, unless there's something like vaginismus present, many of us are able to accept penetration when we don't feel safe, which is not a great thing, but it is possible. The vagina is like, okay. But the anus is, it needs you to feel safe and relaxed in order for it to not be painful. Otherwise, it can be painful and you can tear and you can get fissures, which is really not ideal. So, yeah.
Yes, and this is what I hear as well, is that if you if the penis goes too hard in, you can get tears and fissures, and if the penis is removed too fast, you can get hemorrhoids. What do you call it?
Yeah, hemorrhoids.
Yeah. So it needs to be very carefully done, very slowly inserted, and very, very slowly exited.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that couples actually have these really honest conversations before it starts, so that everybody knows what's going to happen. Everybody knows how to take care, because this is something that, you know, you need to take care of the anus owner. If you're going to be exploring this, then you need to know how to do it safely. Absolutely.
What about douching?
Douching. So I would say absolutely not for a vagina, just while we're on the subject. But people do douche the anus, and yeah, it's your preference. If it makes you feel more comfortable, then it's something that can be beneficial to, make sure there's no, absolutely no poo. But it's not really essential. It's not really essential. If you do what I mentioned earlier, it's not essential, but it can be about confidence, really. It's a confidence booster.
So now we've spoken about, well, in my head, we've been talking about cisgender women and cisgender men and their anal experiences, their anal play. What about, okay, so apparently I can't say homosexual men.
Okay.
I have to say queer men.
Okay.
Okay. So queer men and their associations with their anuses. From the experience that I've had in counseling queer men, some men have never been penetrated. So I kind of liken this experience with the fact that they cannot receive love. And it's similar for me with a female who battles with vaginismus. If there hasn't been any trauma, especially with virgins. And essentially, a man who hasn't received penetration is also a virgin.
Okay.
Also, if he hasn't penetrated, he's also a virgin. So, for me, it's very similar about not being able to receive love. So, I wonder what your take on that is.
Yeah, I think I have a slightly different stance, purely because sex and lovemaking and receiving love there's so many different ways for that to happen. And I don't think that penetration is always the only way, even though with heterosexual couples, it tends to be the be all and end all. But especially for queer couples, I don't think that being penetrated is a symbol or, a symbol of you being able to receive love, if that isn't what you prefer. If you prefer to penetrate, or if you prefer mutual masturbation, whatever your preferred choice for lovemaking and sex is, then I think there's nothing wrong with that. So this is where the whole idea of being a virgin is such an odd concept, because do you have to have been penetrated? Is that the rule? Do you have to have penetrated? Like, who made that rule? Right? So if you're experiencing pleasure and making love with somebody who you adore, and it doesn't include penetration, then I think that's okay. I don't think that necessarily means you're unable to receive love. So sometimes, especially with queer men, it may be, maybe one person does the penetrating, one person receives. Maybe, they have a completely different play. So yeah, I kind of see it as a wider array of potential play options that don't say anything about your ability to receive love. That's kind of how I see it. But what do you think of that?
Absolutely, and definitely, it opens doors for different types of play. That it doesn't only have to be penetrative sex to be fulfilling sex. And obviously, I look at it from a different angle when, obviously, if a man is coming to me and saying, I want to receive, or I want to be penetrated, but I can't.
Okay, yes, that's different.
We look at it as why and etc. And always having to be giving instead of receiving, then we kind of look at people-pleasing behavior and why he can't receive. And then I kind of liken it to the woman who cannot receive, cannot release, with vaginismus. So that kind of interests me. And then also there's the guilt and shame about being queer and about receiving penetration in the anus. For me, that also comes up a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, when you feel shame around something, if the physical act brings shame, then sometimes your body and your mind, to try to protect you from feeling that shame, will push away the whole pleasure aspect as well. So you will no longer be able to experience pleasure because your body has locked that away, because it feels like it's safer for you to not know that stuff, not feel that shame. And it's like, it's a safety thing again. I keep on talking
Yes.
about it, but like the safety and the self-trust aspect are enormous. And especially because the messaging that we've often received around being queer and anal sex in particular, you know, the religious messaging and the cultural messaging can be very negative and form part of that identity that we spoke about at the beginning as well. What does it say about you if you are one of those people that do anal, right? What does that say about you? Are you going to accept that part of your identity? Are you going to accept that as true for you? And it's unpacking that then. Actually, this is something that I want to do, but I believe that it says this about me, or maybe it doesn't say anything about me. So it takes a lot of courage to stand up against everything you've been told and the way that your mind has formed, to actually say, no, that's not true for me. I'm choosing a different truth. I'm creating my own reality, and I'm going to be open to trying these experiences.
Absolutely. And then going back to cisgender couples,
Yes.
they don't talk about it. They don't talk about who is doing it and who's not doing it. And I think that, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that really has to do with, what will people think about me? What will think people about us? You know, it's the same as if they want to go swinging or they want to invite a third party. They don't talk about it. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, talking about sex is so much more vulnerable than doing the act. Having sex, you can just do it without really thinking. But when you actually talk together, that's when the vulnerability is really, that's when you're laid bare.
Absolutely. Lisa, I have to just take say this is like a burden, but it's not. I need to take an ad break, and I see that our lights have gone out, but everything else is still working. So if you just give me a few minutes just to
No problem.
take an ad break. So we all know summer bodies are built in winter, but that can be easier said than done. So why not join fitness expert Mo on the Health Fix with Mo for an inspirational weekly fitness podcast show for fitness novices. Mo chats to the best in local health and fitness experts in an effort to get information to help you achieve your aesthetic, fitness, and health goals. Subscribe on YouTube, listen on any good podcast platform, find it on www.yourmedia.co.za. Your Media, #where you are. Right. The next thing I want to look at is your wand.
Oh, yes.
Sex toys.
I'm excited to share this with you.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so this
okay.
is, it's gorgeous, isn't it? I'm trying to work out which way around my camera is working. So this is a glass wand, but it's not your average glass. That's the first question that people ask when they see this thing. So for anybody who's listening, it's quite a long glass toy with a slight S bend. Half of it is ridged, half is smooth, and it has like a bulb at the other end. It is quite long, like it's as long as my forearm and my palm of my hand.
Yes.
And so it can be quite intimidating at
Yes.
first. The first thing people ask me is, why would you ever put something glass inside of your vagina? Because that's what this is designed to be used for. And so I just want to reassure you that it's not made out of like the same glass that you drink from. It is a medical grade borosilicate, and it has also been heat treated through a special heat treatment to make sure that it is sturdy and robust and smooth and safe to use. It would break if you dropped it on your tiles though.
It wouldn't splinter.
No.
It's shatterproof.
Yeah, it's like Pyrex. It's kind of like Pyrex. So it's a lot stronger, a lot more robust. But yeah, still, if you dropped it on your floor, it's still going to break. But it's not going to break during use. Yeah, it's as strong. In fact, it should last you a lifetime. So the reason that I've recently decided to start selling these is because in my work with vulva owners and specifically overcoming shame and building up a relationship with their vulva and their vagina, I find this tool to be incredibly helpful. So it is a pleasure tool, but it is also great for de-armoring. And so what I mean by that is removing like the protective layers and instincts that you've put in place over years of trauma. Perhaps you've had trauma, so whether that's sexual abuse, or it could be a medical trauma, or it could be allowing penetration before you're ready. There's so many different things that can kind of cause us to hold trauma and tension in the vagina. It could also just be a simple disconnect from you and your vagina. So it could be that you are struggling to see yourself as a sexual being. It could be that you think your vagina is kind of gross and smelly and stinky and horrible, and so you just feel disgusted by it, and you feel disgusted when your partner touches it, and so that makes it very hard to experience pleasure, because this part of your body that's getting attention you kind of hate on some level. It's like body image issues gone wild when it comes to the vulva. And so what this can help you to do is actually form a connection and a bond, because you are actually having to stay conscious while you use it. I love vibrators, but you can use those when you're kind of thinking about something else, right? You can be thinking about your to-do list, or what you're going to cook for dinner. But with this, when you're using like this long glass wand, you actually do have to stay present with what you're doing. And so you can use, because it's hard and not like a soft toy, you can actually use it to massage the pelvic floor through the vaginal canal walls. And that's what's really beautiful about it. So you kind of use it to almost work on the knots in the vaginal, in the pelvic floor, which sounds crazy until you think about, like, it's normal for muscles to get stiff and knotty. And when did you ever consider that the muscles that you can feel through your vaginal wall can get that way too? Especially with all of the trauma that they might be holding. So you can use this to literally massage the pelvic floor and increase blood flow to the area, release tension, and actually like invite more sensitivity. So you're increasing sensitivity with this, which is powerful, because a lot of us feel completely numb inside of our vagina, and this can be why intercourse is just so meh to so many women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And so many women, it is meh.
yeah, they can take it or leave it. The other great thing about it is this ribbed section is fantastic for G-spot stimulation. So whether you're using it like, you can use the ends like this to massage the G-spot, or you can literally rub the rib section along the G-spot. It can feel fantastic. And the great thing is you've got this nice long handle, so you don't have to bend awkwardly. You can actually relax and use the other end of the wand as a handle. And the bulbed end is great for cervical stimulation. So you can literally reach the cervix right at the end of the vagina, and either just hold the bulb against it, or you can massage, with the bulb as well. And it can be powerful for a lot of women, because the cervix is often, we're often very disconnected from our cervix, because the cervix is the medical portal, right? Period blood comes out, babies come out, and semen goes in, and so do like those pap smear ones. So what I think, when you first touch your cervix, if you've never touched your cervix, then you can find it right at the end of your vagina. You can sometimes find it with a finger if you kind of sit in a squatting position, and it feels like the tip of your nose. That's how it feels. It's not always central. Sometimes it's sitting at a side. But when you first touch it, it can be like touching your belly button, like that squeamish, like, feeling like, that's weird. And I think that's because typically the cervix has just been bashed about in intercourse, or scraped during pap smears, and oh my goodness.
I can see you hate that. You'd rather go to the dentist, you mean?
Yes. And so the funny thing is, the cervix does have the potential to be orgasmic if you are present with it, like if you spend time connecting with it and stimulating it to bring sensitivity and blood flow. So yeah, it's something that can take quite a long time actually to de-armor, in what I've mentioned earlier, but something that somebody might be curious about doing, you know, reconnecting with that powerful part of your body, the neck of your uterus, like the gateway to your womb.
Sounds more enticing that way.
Yes.
100%. Well, that looks amazing. So is that available on your website?
Yes,
The one.
it is. Yes, it is. I actually, my audience on Instagram helped me to name this. So we've called it the Mina, Mina.
Mm,
Yes, it's available on my website. Yes, with a whole load of tutorial videos because people are kind of intimidated, very curious. So I thought, let me just explain it. And then, so if you can't see the wand, if you're listening to the podcast, then go and you can go and watch those tutorial videos, and they'll tell you more about it.
fantastic. What other little toys do you have there?
So I've got a little selection with me today, just because a lot of people do ask like where to start with sex toys. So I just wanted to like show a few things. So, okay, so first of all, I wanted to talk about a bullet vibrator because this is often used as people's first kind of vibrator. So this is a small vibrator as long as your middle finger usually, with an on-off button at the bottom. That's usually how they are. This one I'm holding is a pink, fully, like it's a waterproof one by Intimate Touch, which is a South African brand. And it is, it's really affordable and a great first toy. It's a great first toy because you can experience the vibration. You can use it alone. It's great for any genitals, actually. Great for clitoral stimulation, or the shaft of the penis, or under the balls can feel really good. Sometimes it can be too intense for the clitoris because it's like a direct vibration, and in that case you can use it like over underwear. But I just wanted to say that this is a great starting toy. It's because it's not too intimidating. It doesn't look phallic, which can sometimes be what puts people off. Like, people don't want another penis in the bedroom. You know, penis owners can sometimes feel threatened by that. So this toy can be helpful as a first step. And also because it can be used during intercourse. So while you're doing penis and vagina intercourse, this can be great to stimulate the clitoris. So make sure that the vulva is getting the attention that it needs too. So always using lube, but yeah, so I wanted to mention that one. You'll also find a lot of G-spot toys. So I wanted to talk about that. So the G-spot toys are usually curved like this. Okay, so you can see the curves on these ones. Curved because the G-spot is located on the entrance to the vagina, on the upper wall, so towards the stomach, usually only 1/2 inch to 3 inches inside. So it's not very far. And essentially the G-spot is actually the internal part of the clitoral structure. So it's erectile tissue. So if you're feeling aroused and the clitoris is already aroused and engorged with blood, this internal part of the clitoris can be felt sometimes through the vaginal wall. And so these kinds of vibrators are designed to stimulate just inside the vaginal wall that particular internal part of the clitoris. So that's what they're designed for. So they'll have like a rumbling motor around here, and you know, you can get ribbed ones. I mean, you can get all kinds of shaped ones of these, but any vibrator that you see with a curve, that's what it's aiming for. It's aiming for the G-spot.
Okay, fantastic.
So I also wanted to share one that is like a blended orgasm kind of toy. So this part, as I mentioned with the previous toy, is also ribbed, and that is designed for G-spot stimulation, but this toy also has a clitoral stimulator. So these can be quite fun. They give, obviously, that the aim is a blended orgasm. And so a blended orgasm is where you have two kinds of orgasms happening simultaneously. So for example, clitoral and G-spot, or it can be clitoral and anal, or clitoral and cervical, or, you know, anything, or clitoral and nipple. It doesn't always have to be clitoral, it could be cervical and nipple. You know, you can choose whatever turns you on. So, but the great thing about blended orgasm is that it's often a deeper experience. You know, it's a full body experience. A clitoral orgasm on its own is fabulous, but when you include another form of pleasure, it can just take the whole experience to like a different elevation. And so a toy like this, where you're getting both kinds of stimulation, is fantastic. And as I mentioned, this one stimulates the external part of the clitoris and the internal part of the clitoris at the same time. And that is all of that delicious erectile tissue that vulva owners have being stimulated at once, and it can be quite a powerful orgasm. And finally, I also just wanted to show you, this is a really fun toy from Smile Maker's collection. They call it the French Lover, and it's supposed to be like a tongue. It's very floppy and great fun. No, I know, isn't it great? So I underestimated this. Yeah, when I saw it, I thought I actually wouldn't have chosen this, but they sent it to me as a gift. I'm so grateful, because when you actually turn it on, and I'm sorry, oh, maybe there's no batteries. That's hilarious.
I know what you've been doing.
When you turn it on, this vibrates like crazy. So it's like a floppy silicone tongue, essentially, and it just gives a very gentle stimulation to the labia, to the vulva, to the clitoris, and it's a very different sensation. So if you're curious about trying toys, if any of the listeners are curious about trying toys, I would say, like, open your minds, because there's so many different forms. Like, sex tech has really grown in recent years. Like, don't just go looking for what you might have seen before or what you think you should get. Like, go and see what these toys are all about. Go to a store if you can and actually touch them, because you will often be able to actually feel how they feel, right? What is the texture? How big are they really? Sometimes you don't know how big they are until you see them. And try out the vibration on your hands and on your face and see, how does that feel? How might that feel on your, on your labia, on your clitoris? So sex toys are, I know they're also taboo, and I know that's what you're busting here on your podcast. Absolutely. But so many people do use them and enjoy them in the bedroom. So if you're curious about trying them, invite the conversation with your partner, go shopping together. You can shop online together and start small. Start with something that you both feel comfortable with. Start with, if you already know that you love clitoral stimulation, then start with a clitoral stimulator, right? And so work with what you like already, and with something that doesn't make you feel too intimidated. And then keep it close to the bed. If that's where you're having sex, keep it close. Because in the moment, you don't want to get up, go to the drawer, find it, clean it. Like, keep it nice and clean and ready for action near your bed, so you can fling out an arm in a moment of heated passion, grab the vibrator and bring it to the party.
And keep it charged.
Yes, keep it charged. Yeah, that was a rookie mistake.
And also that lube, keep that thing handy. Absolutely, keep it
100%.
Yeah, and I know that you also have you also endorse your own lubricant, Intimate Touch, correct?
So no, that's not mine, but Intimate Touch have a great range of lubricants.
Yes.
And another lubricant that I love is Liquid Gold Lube, which is actually made by a lady in Cape Town. Yeah, so no, I don't have my own, but I love those ranges. The Liquid Gold is a great natural lubricant, which is infused with rooibos. It's gorgeous. And yeah, in fact, I have a sneaky discount for anybody using that. Lisa loves, for any Intimate Touch or Liquid Gold lube, because I do enjoy those brands. So Lisa loves, one word, will get you a discount on both of those.
Fantastic. Lisa, this has been so informative, really, and such a fun chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, wow. And I know that when we finish this, there's going to be a flood of questions that I'll have coming to my brain. But there doesn't seem to be anything at the moment. Just something that came to me. I love the synchronicity of my life. As I opened my emails this morning, I found an article from ONUT about about anal sex and why is it so sore. So it was the most fascinating article, and it also explained the physiology of the anus and exactly what you've been explaining about having to go slow and lubrication and why it can be so sore, and how the pelvic floor actually tightens up as well, and the muscles, the skeletal muscles around the pelvis, the anus, and so on. So it was so interesting. So if anybody doesn't know what the O nut is for, it was developed by a woman in America who wanted to help women with vaginismus. And she developed these silicone rings. My camera's not really working. Well, I mean, it's working, but I can't really see. They're about this big. And what you do is, and they're very, very stretchy and pliable. So you stack them on the penis. So, camera, you stack these silicone rings on the penis. You start off with the 4 of them, and they feel like skin. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm sure you know what this is about, but I'm telling our listeners. So they silicone rings that you stack on the penis, and they feel like skin. So as the penis owner starts to insert his penis in the vagina or in the anus, it was actually formulated for the vagina first, and the vagina starts to respond to the comfort of the penetration. So you remove a ring and you can go down to 3 rings until the vagina owner is feeling more comfortable with receiving more penis. So I see that this ONUT advert this morning has rainbow colors.
Oh, wow. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
and for queer sex, for anal sex. So I just loved that, and I just thought it would be amazing to mention that to you since we are talking about it, and as this email came in this morning. So it
Perfect
was,
timing.
it was very
You know,
interesting.
it's also very useful for couples, for heterosexual couples where the penis is very large and it's uncomfortable for the lady, for the vulva owner to receive. So
Yes.
if you're struggling, if your partner's penis feels too big, then you can always use one of those rings so that they can be more free then as well in their movement without you being worried that you're going to get injured. It can be a really great tool because it also brings a lot of pleasure to the penis, like that extra bit of skin feeling that you mentioned provides the stimulation for the penis while the person receiving the penetration can be protected from being penetrated too deeply before they're ready. So it's a great product.
Amazing. Lisa, it's been a joy. Very informative, delightful to have you on my show. And hopefully we'll be able to get you back again with some other very exciting topic. So I just want to thank you again and to wish you a beautiful weekend and all the very best. So I want to just remind our listeners about your website. So I see you've added in all the HTTPs. Bit of a tongue tie for me, but I'm
Don't
going
need
to
to add that.
I'm going to include the www.itslisawelsh.com. And the code is taboo, TABOO, in capital letters. And you will receive a 30% discount on her online pleasure chest course, for online course on the pleasure chest for any listeners. So please
Absolutely. And that
go and check this out and take advantage of the course.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. And just to let everybody know, it's kind of like an orgasm school. That's my signature course, which teaches over 11 modules how to experience orgasm from a variety of different stimulations. So because so many of my clients are wanting to experience orgasm from intercourse, it kind of takes you step by step and weaves in a lot of lessons along the way. So the pleasure chest is the course, and the code is taboo, exclusively for your listeners.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. Look after yourself. And I look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Absolute pleasure.